The Derek talks about black with blank.
Podcast, Episode 2, Hunter McNally.
Come on now!
Hello and welcome to the Derek Talks About Blank with Blank podcast. Today I have my second guest, Hunter McNally. He is a rock musician from Central PA, Philadelphia, PA area, and he just released his first album on my own. I think, what was it? Earlier this month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 10th.
Yeah. So yeah, go stream that. And
that.
let's jump right into the questions. So first off, what other artists or groups are your biggest inspirations?
So a lot of the earlier inspirations were more like Pink Floyd and a lot of classic rock stuff my dad kind of helped me grow up on. And then right when I started recording music, it was more Ambassadors and Imagine Dragons and stuff like that. And then lately it's just been Tame Impala, like everything. I'm just obsessed with them. It's bad. Like all my friends are just sick of hearing about it. So
I have not gotten into them. I don't know why. I just haven't gotten to go listen to them. Are they really that good?
it's
I feel like people in the
I'm
comments of
badly
the video
obsessed.
are gonna yell at me for not listening to Tame Impala, but
you
I don't
would
know.
know at least one song by them.
Probably.
But like
yeah.
their music, his music, he writes all the instruments, like everything on all the albums, and like he's just insanely creative, and he uses all these different synthesizers and stuff and sounds that I'd never even heard before. So it's crazy, but I strongly urge you to check it out. It's cool. It's really cool.
So, anything else? Because I know you were talking to me during the school year about how the one time in the one class I mentioned Ambassadors, you're like, that's my favorite band. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't listened to a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, no, when you were talking about Belong, the EP that they released in class,
That
like,
was
I just kind of shot up because I was like, oh, someone else listens to Ambassadors. Because like I was obsessed with them for the longest time. I actually seen them. I had met them too. I met all three of them outside of
What?
In the Chameleon Club.
Oh, nice.
My then girlfriend and I were there. Got there about 3 hours prior to the show, and we were waiting out back, and their tour bus just rolled up, and they got out and said hi to us, and it was just like, oh, cool. This is like my favorite person in the world just walking out of the bus. Like, just like, it was insane. And like, then you had the basic other people that came just for signatures, but like, it was really cool. I got signatures on the back of my shirt. So it was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question. Do you ever find a deeper connection to one of the songs you make, but then another song that you weren't expecting to get popular gets popular?
I want to say that another big song that so Promises was a single that I wrote. It was just kind of out of the blue. It was before my album came out. And I just kind of put that out there because I felt like it was really experimental for me, because it was just kind of more synth sounds and different weird stuff that I had. And like I had sent it to a few friends prior to like releasing it, and they're just like, so you're just kind of turning into an 80s pop artist. And I was like, I don't know if that's what I'd call it, but it sounds pretty close.
It is very 80s pop sounding, honestly.
Yeah, and I fell in love with the song, and I just kind of put it out there on a whim, and I didn't really expect it to go anywhere, because I was just like, I just like this song, I'm gonna put it out, and it's like my third or fourth top song on everything, like above everything else, and I'm just like,
yeah,
was really surprised by it. So
yeah, I really like that song. Actually, it's really it's definitely different from the rest of your stuff. It's just like, that's cool. I like this.
Trying something new, just whatever came to my head. Wrote that song in like, I think it was an overnighter. It was like 8 hours. I had written that song. I just have nights like that where I just write a song because I can't forget an idea. If I fall asleep, I'm going to forget the idea. I don't write it down or anything. I always just have it in my head because I like how it sounds in my head. But if I can't replicate what the sounds in my head on my laptop, it's not a successful night. So
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Most of the time, most of my ideas come when I'm mowing the lawn, because one of my part-time jobs is mowing lawns.
interesting.
So it's just like I'm mowing the lawn and I'm just like, I mean, I posted this on my story the one time. It was like I had this jazz fusion 7/8 rhythm and like kind of 2-chord thing in my head, and it was like constantly in my head. So I like literally recorded it on my phone, and then I went to my DAW later that night, which is BandLab, which is like, it's not like it's an online DAW, so it's like not as like great as like, you know, stuff like Logic or like Pro Tools or anything. I looked and it doesn't have 7/8 as an option for time signature, and I was like, oh, no. So I still have the recording of me just doing this weird thing on my phone, and I'm just
Nice.
like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do with this. Gonna have to wait till school.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Hey, favorite artists or groups at the moment?
Well, for sure, Tame Impala, like everything. X Ambassadors is another good one. I've been kind of just bouncing around a lot lately. I love a lot of different kinds of genres. There is a band that I actually got into recently, St. Paul and the Broken Bones. They're more of like a jazz. I guess they're more funk, jazz, something like that. But they're really, really good, and like the guy's voice is just absolutely insane. And I've been trying to see them for a very long time. So.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look them up now because I love jazz funk fusion.
Well, I'm not good with like pinpointing genres. Like it just sounds really jazzy to me. So
I can get that. Yep, I can get that. Yeah. Future. No, actually, that's the last question. I'm not gonna say that. Okay, let's move on to my questions because you know those are important.
There you go.
Okay, so as I told you before we started recording this, the first 3 questions I have for you are kind of just like explanations or things that were going through my mind while I was doing a deep dive on the album. It was just like things that like just kind of popped up multiple times, and I was just like, hey, that sounds like this, or this sounds, and this is like interesting things that I might have found out. And I just want you to, you know, like elaborate on that, explain it maybe a little bit better than I do, because obviously I'm not the one who wrote the songs, you are. So
right, yeah.
The first one, in your song Lost, you sing about having a broken heart while still having an ache for another person. But these feelings are contrasted with lyrics in your songs, I Don't Care and Leave Me Alone, and also Space. It's almost as if you're having the listener go through this roller coaster ride of emotions with you.
Yeah, the whole process of the album was just kind of based on the emotions that I had gone through over this period of time. And I've been in a lot of relationships. Actually, I've been in and out of probably 4 relationships during the making of the album. And it was just like different times with the same people, and it was really rough. It was a really rough patch because like I had so many different feelings. Like I was in a relationship, I felt in love, and then I kind of fell out of it, and then but it's still there, and then so it was just kind of pushing and pulling the entire time, and it was just like it was stress. It was constant stress. But with Lost, that song was pretty much just one where I like, because Leave Me Alone and I Don't Care was more of like an anthem, like I don't need you, I don't need a relationship, that's something I don't want. But when I wrote Lost, it was just kind of like it was like 3 a.m, and I was going through a bunch of chord progressions on the guitar, and I liked this one that sounded, and I wanted kind of like a deep C kind of sound to the beginning, and because it just kind of fades in. And also shout out to Josh Marzak, who mastered the entire album. So
yes, Josh.
he's a legend for that. But yeah, Lost was like a really personal one because it's a double meaning. It's about a relationship that I had gone through, but it's also about indirectly about my grandfather, about how I miss him because he passed away a few years ago, and I started writing like the lyrics for this song Where do we go when we hit the last second? Like that was just something that popped in my head, and I always had a fear of death, so that was pretty interesting to write about that.
Don't we all?
But yeah, so like that was just kind of my first question after he had passed away and this time had passed, and I was like, okay, so where is this going? Like, is this just all like, what's the point of life? You know, kind of that feeling. And
Yeah.
so just kind of felt like I covered that with relationships and kind of lost track of what the actual meaning of being happy was and what the actual meaning of staying afloat in a way was. So
Yeah.
pretty depressing stuff, but like, yeah. So yeah, and then Leave Me Alone and I Don't Care was just kind of like I was really like mad the one day, and I was just like, you know, I'm gonna write this song. I was listening to Green Day, and I was listening to like all these different actually where I was listening to, it was Green Day. I listened to a little bit of Megadeth that day too. I don't know why, but it was just like listening to a bunch of like hard rock songs. Like, you know, I want to make like a punk song. So I did, and I Don't Care happened. I just had like a chant vocal that was like my vocal saying, like yelling I don't care 20 times over.
Because honestly, that's what you do in this song.
Yes, pretty much. It's just a chant song. Like if people don't know the lyrics to the songs and like I play live, it's just like, okay, all you gotta do with this part is just scream I don't care. Find something in your head you don't care about and just say it.
Don't
Like,
care about it.
yeah. I just don't care. So yeah, that's pretty much that. And then Leave Me Alone was just kind of like it was actually, I had wrote it in a relationship that during a relationship that I was in, and I was just like having problems with this person, and I got to a point one night where I was just like, okay, I just need time. Like, you need to leave me alone, and I don't want to worry about this. I just wanted to have some time to myself. So that's how that one came about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. So on your album, On My Own, it goes through a multitude. And when I say multitude, I mean a multitude of genres. Lost is soft rock. Space is soft pop. I Don't Care is hard rock punk, which also sounds a little like early Cage the Elephant to me for some reason. But the three most curiously adventurous songs are Momentary Relapse, and Don't Be Late, and also, Leave Me Alone. I don't even know what genre I would put Don't Be Late and Leave Me Alone into. I guess something that kind of has to do with 80s pop, but I wasn't really even certain. But then Momentary Relapse is like, it's like a unique fusion of rock and pop in it. And so like kind of what I thought of it was that the verses are more of like a SoCal rock vibe, kind of like Bad Sons, if you've heard of them. The choruses evoke more of a psychedelic rock vibe, and I'm saying that knowing that I've really only listened to two psychedelic bands in my life, which are Gone Is Gone and Temples, and that's basically it. So I know nothing about psychedelic rock. It just kind of felt like that to me. And then you stick an 80s synthwave pop synth solo that, oddly enough, really, really works. So it was just like, I don't know what you were thinking when you were coming up with some of these genres, because it's just like, oh, this is a genre. Oh, this is very different sounding than that last one.
No, Momentary Relapse was like Momentary Relapse is my favorite song that I've written. I was on a Tame Impala just listening to a bunch of music by them, and I came across a song that I liked. It's called Elephant, and it's on their album Lonerism. And it's just a really hard rock song. And I was just like, I want to have that, but I also want to add some little different synth sounds and stuff and kind of make it different. And the first thing I had when I wrote that song was the drum loop that I found. And I found that drum loop, but I was just like really vibing with it. I was like, okay, I want something, interesting. I put some chords, some guitar chords on it, and I actually had some help from someone you may know. Blake Harvey wrote the bass, the bass part for that.
Yeah,
And like
that bass
part, oh my God, I fell in love with it. I was just like, okay, this song is going to be good. And I actually consulted my oldest brother. My oldest brother is a big inspiration for me when it comes to music, because he started writing music before I did. I mean, he's 27, and he's kind of just helped me out along the way. And he had this idea of me throwing power chords in it and just kind of switching it up. And when that came in, I started writing lyrics about the momentary relapse. So that's also about the whole relationship thing. I tend to have a lot of anxiety when it comes to relationships because I'm just kind of back and forth a lot. And that momentary relapse was just like, once the chorus hits, it's supposed to signify an anxiety attack. It's completely out of the blue, like coming out of nowhere, and it's supposed to just hit. And when that hits and the delayed vocals and everything, and it just kind of feels like everything is going on at once, and it kind of just falls back into the verse again. So it's just kind of, it's supposed to come out of nowhere, and
It does.
yeah. So I
Like,
fell in love with that song.
Psychedelic.
Yeah, I fell in love with that song, and just I couldn't really tell you what genre it is at all. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Don't Be Late was a fun one. That was just kind of like, that was a little bit different than the rest of the album. It was just kind of it was just a fun feel. It was
Yeah.
like a feeling good
That's
song.
actually my favorite song
Oh yeah,
that you've made, honestly. It's just, I mean, that drum groove is just so slapping. It just slaps so much. It's just like, this is tight.
yeah. I love that drum, and the chords kind of feel good with the drum. And
Yeah.
actually Marzak also had put a little spice on that song. I had sent it to him.
Ooh.
And he actually threw the harmonies on there at the chorus because I didn't initially have them. And he sent it to me. He's just like, I did something, and I was like, uh-oh. and once he said it to me, I was like, oh, actually, that sounds really cool. I should have done that. Like, it's one thing to be an artist, like a solo artist, and write your own music and like play all these different instruments. But when you have someone else to look it over and like throw some things in, it's crazy what kind of things you can discover about yourself. Like, oh, that did fit in my mind, but it worked out and it sounds cool. Like that was pretty much the synth solo in Momentary Relapse, because like I was messing around with, I think it was in Logic, it's called jump up bass. And it's supposed to be a low kicking bass, but I kind of set it up a few octaves and I was like, this sounds really cool. So I was messing around and just like playing around because I don't know how to play piano. Like I just kind of fake it. And I was messing around with it and I was like, holy crap, this sounds really funky. Like, but this doesn't make any sense. Like, so, I'm just going to throw that in because it feels fun. So I finished that up and quantized it and everything. And it just felt so perfect to end the song off, and just like, it just felt really cool. So yeah, that's my favorite. I could go on for hours about how much I enjoyed listening to that song. I would walk on campus with just the instrumental before I even wrote the lyrics and just listen to it on repeat. I just put it on repeat and just listen to it because I was just like, I am so proud of this song. Like everybody has that one song they're just so proud of. Like they listen to it on repeat. Like they're probably the reason it's on my top songs because I've listened to it probably 50 times over. Like I need to start doing this thing where I save a copy on my phone so I don't have to like kind of push off the streams. I want to have the streams as like a natural number instead of my 50 or my 100 listens on top of it,
Yeah,
So,
I get that.
But yeah, it was just really fun to write, and I'm really, really happy about that one, and kind of a curveball for the album. It was just
really.
That. But yeah, Leave Me Alone. I liked that one a lot, and then Don't Be Late was just kind of a feel good song. Like I said, just a nice feel good song, and I liked it a lot. And the ending part had a lot of high notes, and I kind of just threw that in. I was like, oh, let's just throw some high notes in here. Why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Number 3. In contrast to my last guest, Peyton, whose music feels a lot more nostalgia-driven, your music feels a lot more in the moment and present, which, I mean, you talked about that a little bit with, like, you going through 4 relationships while you were writing the album. So, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like that was the whole thing. Like music was my go-to in a time of stress or a time of anxiety. Like that would just immediately calm me down. So I would wake up in the morning, I'd have this thing in my head, and I just put it down. And like, whether I was having a good day or not, I get home from work, and as I told you, I'm working 3 jobs, and like it's just constant stress and constant like I don't sleep at night. So
Yikes.
it's just like, music was my go-to, and music was kind of just a fun getaway for a good few hours, and then I wake up the next morning and I have to go to work. So like, but yeah, it's really in the moment, and like every single song that I've written was like written in that emotion. Like the emotion I was feeling and lost, I was probably on the edge of crying at that point. Like Momentary Relapse, I was just going through a lot of stress. Like, but it's really based on how I felt, and yeah, just like every single emotion that was driven in that music. I like when I go back and listen to it now, listen to some of the songs that I wrote, and some of these songs I haven't even released yet. I just listen to it and like, okay, I know exactly where I was when I wrote this, and I know exactly how I was feeling when I wrote this. Like, so
Do you think
yeah.
it like brings you like for like things like lost, like, or even momentary relapse? Do you think it brings you like back to that place of when you're like about to cry, or when you were like super stressed? Like, are you like stressed while you're listening to Momentary Relapse?
It seems like whenever I do go listen back to it, like I've had a lot of people tell me since I released the album that like, oh my gosh, Lost hit different. I was like, yeah, it hit different with me too. Like that's why I wrote it. And like I still listen to it like here and there just with headphones on at night, because like I always just I'll listen to an hour of music on my headphones before I go to bed, and like whether it's my stuff or stuff I've been listening to, and just kind of like vibe with it, and like, listening back to those songs and hearing them, it's just like, okay, wow, like I feel this emotion now because I know exactly why I put this in here. I know why I put that in there, and I know why I wanted to evoke the emotion. So it's just kind of like most of the album was just kind of like, it's a generalization of how emotions worked through my relationships and through my life, but like also kind of just like, hey, you probably relate to this, or like if you can relate to this, like you probably know how I feel. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Number 4. Your music heavily features can't English. Your music heavily features your head voice. Was there a specific reason for this, or was it just like, hey, I'll just throw that in?
So I'd always been told, actually this even goes back to like my high school days. I was in choir, and I did 4 years of choir, and like I hated it. But like, because my choir director was like, really, they played favorites, and it was just really dumb. And I was always thrown to be a bass, and I was always singing lower notes that people couldn't sing, and like I've always been told, oh, you're not a tenor, you're a bass, and you're never going to be a tenor, you don't sing these high notes.
Oh,
and stuff
you're
like that.
such a tenor.
Yeah,
You
so like
so are.
so like I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna start writing these songs, and I'm gonna put some high notes in here. I'm gonna send it to my choir director. I never did, but like I wanted to throw them in there because like I always like having something, I don't know, because like my main instrument is my voice, so I like to experiment with that, because that's what I know to experiment with. I taught myself guitar, I taught myself piano, I taught myself bass, like everything, and it's just kind of like it's a crash course of like some chords or some of these notes and stuff like that. And so when it comes to music, like the instrumental is there, but like I really want to experiment with my voice and see what kind of notes I can hit. And I've hit some pretty ridiculously high notes that probably would burn some eardrums. But like I like, even my brother has a video, like he was sitting in his room, because my room is directly across from my brother's, and like I was singing some high notes, and he recorded me doing one of the takes for Leave Me Alone. It just sounded so bad, and I was like, why is this squirrel like dying in your room? I was like, okay, so that's what we're doing here. But yeah, I really enjoyed putting a lot of high notes in there, just something to kind of throw them off. And Marzak kind of helped me with that too, like
because he can
high
hit.
notes in his songs. So
How tall does his range go? Like
I have
it's
no idea. It's
ungodly.
Yes.
I don't know if he went through puberty, honestly. He hits so high with his voice.
Although he told me that I can sing higher than him. I've hit notes that have been higher than his notes. It's just I don't sing it comfortably. He's been trained very well.
Yeah.
It's just like I can hit a higher note, but I'm not going to guarantee you that it will stay on that note. Like,
yeah. And I say I don't think he's hit puberty, but he can grow a beard and I can't. So
same. Oh,
okay. How did the collab work with your song Space?
Oh, Space was a really, really fun one to write. Actually, we had that written and finished and mastered within a week. Because
really,
yeah,
wow.
I had the idea. So that I love telling the story because Ani it just enjoys hearing the story all the time. So I was sitting in my room the one night and I was, of course, going through relationship problems that just like so normal for me. And I had thought of this thing where I was just like, okay, well, maybe what if I write a song about how I actually feel about giving space to people and like in a relationship when you need space from someone and like, so I kind of told her the story of what was going on in my relationship and I was just kind of writing the chord progression for it. It just kind of felt like a best part feel in a way. Like Daniel Caesar, I don't know if you heard that song, but like that's just like I felt that, and I was playing the chord progression. I was like, you know who would sound really good on this? Ani. And I was like thinking about it. I was hearing her voice in my head, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to her. And I had met her 2 or 3 times at Millersville, but when I called her that night, this was the first time I'd actually ever spoken to her over the phone. And I called her. I was like, hey, do you want to write a song together? And she's like, sure. So I wrote the lyrics for my verse. I sent them over to her, and then she sent her verse to me. And like, oh my God, if I fell in love with her verse, and like it just that song was so perfect from like the perspective of my perspective and the perspective of the girl, like in that relationship or vice versa, and like I just. And then the little bell part, I loved that too. I kind of threw that in, because I wanted to have something that people could just kind of, sing along to if they wanted to. Yeah. So when I did that, I thought about like, what do I want to have there? Do I want to have lyrics, or just want to kind of like, have the dues there? And I was like, you know what? I'll do that, and then I'll sing my part, and then I'll have her do it the octave up in her register. And I did it, and it's like, holy crap, this sounds really cool. And with the bells and everything, it fit really well. And like I enjoyed writing that song. And we had like I said, that song was written in less than a week and was put out like the next week. So and we're actually starting to write an EP together too. So I'm pretty excited about that.
And of course I am too. Yeah. Okay, and then my last question is, how did the collaboration with Vision work for your song for his song Wishes that you were featured on?
So that collaboration was really interesting because I've known him for a little while. He used to work at a store in the mall that I work at, and it was just I met him through friends and everything, and he's a really ridiculously good rapper, and he's all based off NF. Like NF is his big inspiration, and he's really good with his lyricism and everything. And I was like, hey, we should write a song together. So we hopped on a Zoom call, and we were just talking about like this, and he had this piano sample, and like I was just like, oh, I'm really feeling this. And he's just like, I was writing some lyrics to it if you want to hear them. So listen to the lyrics, and then I wrote the hook part, which is just, I wish that all my dreams came true. And it was just like, oh crap, it just all came together. And then another huge inspiration for me and him is artist named Eden, and he writes a lot of pop stuff, and he's been a huge influence for me. Actually, he was the reason I wrote the song Wonder off the album too. Like that just kind of feel was that too. But like, so I had thrown that hook in, and he put a drop at the end that I wasn't expecting it. So I was like, you know what? I feel like just screaming the lyrics at the end, if you don't mind. He's just like, go for it. So I sent him that, and it ended up coming together, and it was like, holy crap, this sounds really cool. and we threw it on this like new little recording site. So there is a new app that I was told about. It's called Quadio. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes,
before.
I have. I have signed up for it. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
used it at all.
It's really cool. I had to actually I spoke with a representative about it, and she was telling me about like all these different things you can do. Like you can collab with people, you can send people tracks and everything. And they show like all different colleges and like people, and it shows like a top 25 from each college, and you can be a college representative at your university and everything. And I want to do that because there's a lot of artists at our school. So
Yeah, there are.
I figured like freaking Lovesick, like I love his stuff. Like his stuff
yeah.
is really cool. You got Marzak, there's so many people I could just think of that write music at our school.
There's Lynx, No Bad Days. Let's see. Who else can I name? Oh, Winter Parks. Who else? There's so many other people.
There's a lot.
Oh, Dakota Baker, Max Sauer.
There's a really like what was the like
wait,
really
did I say
crazy
Lynx?
band? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wearing her shirt right now.
What was the band that I think it was Emily Lingle, and someone Emily Lingle and
Movstrom? Is that how you say it?
No. It's like they had like a really ridiculously heavy rock song, and it was really funny. I forget what.
Are you talking about the Christmas band? Where Dr. Addix was like an elf, and he was like really kind of.
But there are plenty of artists at our school, so yeah,
there
are plenty.
Yeah,
but it's fun because then you get to experiment with a bunch of different people and like work with a bunch of different people.
We forgot to say the Moon Illusion.
Oh, the Moon Illusion.
Yeah, go stream the song "Mercury and Me." It's fantastic.
Oh my god,
such
that song is a bop. Like
it is so good.
It is a certified bop, and our boy Wyeth is just ridiculous, ridiculously fun to be around.
I just want him to release so much more music because his writing is so good. Because I've heard 2 of his other songs that he hasn't released, and I'm like, I want to listen to these more. Please release them.
Yeah. Him and I are actually working on a song right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've kind of taken a break on songwriting right now because like I like playing guitar, and I did this the other day, so like I can't really do much right now. Yeah, it's not fun. It's like tendonitis in my wrist, and like my wrist is killing me. So I just kind of just resorted to like whatever comes about. So but yeah, him and I are writing a song, and like we're really excited about it because it's another like bop. Like it's gonna be a bop. So
nice.
But yeah, so I don't know if this is the point in the podcast where I remind you that you wanted to ask me a different question.
Yep. Yeah, I totally forgot, honestly. Forgot.
Derek has this amazing question he wanted to ask me that he was talking about before we started this recording.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot it. I feel so dumb right now. Okay, yep, reading your chat. It says interlude, not intro, which makes no sense to the listener right now. So your first song on the album is called Interlude, but it's not an interlude, it's an intro, and it's confusing because you call it interlude when it's not an interlude. Honestly, if you just wrote interlude and then parentheses an intro, I think that would have made it even funnier for some reason.
Actually, the funny thing about that, it's funny you mentioned that because so what I want to do is actually something. So I had released previously to this album, I had released an EP called Different Spectrums, and it was a really different sounding one. I took it off of all streaming services because I was so upset with it. I didn't like it. I didn't like what it turned out to be, and it was just kind of like, I had some people tell me it was Frank Ocean vibes. I don't enjoy Frank Ocean. I know there's a lot of people that really like him, but I just don't. I don't like his stuff. It's a really I could be a
angry comments.
Yes, all the angry comments.
Angry comments at you for Frank Ocean. Angry comments at me for Tame Impala.
Yes, yeah. It just happens. But yeah, so like I just really wait, what were we talking about? I just legit
Oh yeah,
forgot my
interlude and
train of thought.
intro.
Yeah. Interlude.
Intro.
Yeah. So the whole reason I did that, and I realized that I was doing that, this point is because for future projects and everything. So essentially, interlude is purposely put there because it's an interlude into the next phase of my music. So I'm actually, it's a continuation of projects. So I went from different spectrums to on my own to the next album writing, which is also going to have an interlude starting with it, but just kind of a different feel into it. So it's going to have a different introduction and a different sound to it. So it's just kind of like introducing the album in a different way. It's kind of like what the 1975 does with their music, with like they always have the title track as a 1975, which is like their interlude track with like their like, oh hey, here's the album. So yeah.
Yeah.
You thought it was just hilarious and you were dying laughing.
And now I'm just like, oh, okay.
All right.
It's just like, that's disappointing in some way. I thought you just did that as a big joke, just like trolling the fans, just like, yep, I'm calling the intro interlude. And she's like, no, I actually put logic into this, and I'm like,
yeah,
nice.
I didn't think anyone was gonna pick up on that because that was not like, it didn't like make any sense at all. So it was just kind of really funny to see people like, hey, so this interlude, like, what's going on with that? Like, what's the point? And I was like, I don't know. I just liked it, you know? So yeah, I'm pretty, it's just pretty funny how it came about.
Okay, so let's go on to the fan questions. They're a little bit fewer this time than the ones for Peyton. But at L McNally on Instagram, who is your favorite brother? I heard he has a few, which is obviously a ha funny since L McNally is one of your numerous brothers.
Yes, I have 3 brothers and 2 older, 1 younger, and that's actually the only question they end up asking me anytime I do something like this. So I guess I can make everybody mad, and I just say that I'm my favorite. I'm gonna say that I'm my favorite. That's my answer.
Oh, that's such a slap in the face.
Yes.
But that's sad. Okay, and then the last question, which maybe this might become a thing. I have no clue. I honestly don't. But if you want it to become a thing, like message me, whatever, like put in the comments of the YouTube video. Just tell me if you want this to be like a normal thing. For the last fan question to be for my mom. Since I did that last time and I'm now doing it again. Because, yeah, she listens to a lot of music I listen to.
Yeah.
Because she uses my Spotify.
There you go. Yeah.
Which also messes up my data a little bit, like the statistics of like what I've been listening to kind of things.
Oh,
but
yeah.
whatever. I'm okay with it. But she asked, what was the first song you wrote? And I know that the first song that you released, or what says the first song you released on Spotify, was Home, but I'm guessing you wrote something before Home.
Yeah. So there was I have a story with Home, but before that, like the stuff that I wrote before that was like really just really experimental, and like that was just like I had learned 3 chords on the piano, so I was messing around with those chords to see what I could do. And it's funny that like you can take 3 chords and put them in different directions and it works as a song either way, just like most of pop music nowadays. But
yep,
anyways, so, but I had written the song and it was called Don't Know You Anymore, and it was the first song off of Different Spectrums that I had wrote, and they were some really depressing songs. Like it was during like a down point in my life, and I was like, this is when I started writing music, and like I wrote Don't Know You Anymore. There was All You Need to Say Is I'm Okay, and then there's oh goodness, see, I can't even remember. Like, it was just so depressing, like that entire EP, and it was like, um, it was like a depressing point in my life where I was just like, I'm gonna write music and I'm gonna sound sad and I'm gonna feel it just the entire way. And actually, with that music that I was writing, I wrote it in one take. I just kind of thought of lyrics and sang them, and whatever sounded good stayed. And like, that's kind of how I came up with the lyrics. It wasn't till home that I actually started writing down lyrics and like thinking about them and like changing stuff. But like, Different Spectrums was just kind of like, I'm gonna play an instrumental, I'm gonna save it to my laptop, and I'm just gonna sing it over one take and see how that goes. And it ended up being like that, and it just ended up being where I was just starting to use GarageBand and didn't realize how long songs were getting because I just looped it over like 20 bars, and it just ended up being like 6-minute songs. So I could probably honestly tell you that EP was what, 7 or 8 songs, and 4 of them were just interludes in the middle, where they should be. And and so that ended up totaling to be, and those interludes were like 30-35 seconds, and they're just like little beats that I made. That 7-song EP is 10 minutes longer than my actual album. So like, that kind of puts in perspective of like, I didn't know when to stop looping the song, the instrumental. Like, that, I think the longest song that I wrote was like 9 minutes long. And I had to cut it down, because I was just like, so we're writing at like 60 beats per minute. That kind of makes sense when you put it over 128 bars and realize the song is 9 minutes long. Like, it was like, okay, well, this song is 9 minutes long. Let's just cut it down to 6. that's bearable. Like, that's about Freebird. So,
hey, just saying, you got to get to a songwriting level of Sufjan Stevens to have a 25.5-minute song called Impossible Dream, which is honestly, I think, my favorite song by him. And then, of course, like, his 2 latest singles, America, is like 12.5 minutes, and his latest one, My Rajneesh, I think is My Rajneesh. I don't know how to say it. I think it's a foreign language. But it's like 9 minutes long. But I mean, also, his stuff is like, especially in his more later like vocal albums, it's been a lot more electronic production kind of based. So it's like he uses his voice to evolve it from like his normal voice to like a really, really like techno robotic voice, and just like really evolve it in these like, I mean, Age of Odds and I think his upcoming album, which sound from the first 2 tracks that he's released, I'm thinking it's going to be very, very similar to Age of Odds. Odds is spelled A-D-Z, if you're wondering. Okay. It's just pronounced odds for some reason. But I mean, those 2, his upcoming one, and then that one are like super electronic heavy. But also because they're really electronic heavy, he goes to some really odd places in the music. Like, it's like stuff that you never hear in any other kind of, like, he doesn't even have a defined genre. Like, yeah, when he started out, he was like, oh yeah, I'm folk, and it's like he drops like Age of Odds, and it's just like, what are you now? You are not a genre. And then he drops like the BQE, which is like an orchestra mixed with electronics fusion, like composition, like many movement composition. And then he drops a 10-song piano etude that he wrote for a ballet last year, and then like I don't even know. Like, he has so many different genres. He like, I mean, yeah, Spotify considers him neo wave, I think is what they consider him. But or neo mellow is what they consider him. I'm like, I have no clue what this guy's genre is. It's really cool. It's just like, there are going to be, if you look him up, there are going to be albums that you love, and there are going to be albums that you don't like as much, just because his stuff is just everywhere.
That's great. Yeah. So yeah, with that, like, that was the first music that I ever wrote in that EP, and then I got to Home. Home was interesting because that was the first song that like I had released on, well, just kind of like actually had a big release for it. And I was really excited about it because actually, if you listen closely, I don't know if you've ever heard the song Valerie by the Zootons. It was also an Amy Winehouse song. Um,
Oh,
so that song
I've
Valerie,
heard
like,
it.
why don't you come on over, Valerie? Like that chord progression in Home is legit my brother covering Valerie. And that was like the instrumental he sent me. And I was like, can I write lyrics to this? He's like, yeah, but you have to credit this band because like it's their song. And I was like, well, let's just change it up a little bit and just have it different. I was like, okay. So I had that, and actually the one of the funniest parts about the song being recorded is this is before I had any of my recording equipment and all this stuff. And I took my phone, I went into my basement, and I set my phone up on a shelf that was right next to my TV. And I sang into my phone, and that's how the vocals were recorded. Just off a voice
Yep.
memo that I just imported into the track. And I sent it over to my brother. He put it in the track, and he put the guitar and everything and the drums. And that song, when I put it out, everybody like that was it blew up, and I was like, oh. And I was not expecting it at all because like I just was just like a fun song that I wrote, and I just felt like putting it out. And that was my first song I actually released over all this like huge stuff and everything, and I was really pumped about it. And people just ate it up and they loved it. And like it just ended up being somewhat of a bop. And like it's everybody tells me it's like, oh, I like your music, but like I like Home. And like that's just kind of like I feel like whenever someone says that to me, it's just kind of like when just imagine your ex ambassadors are getting out of your tour bus and it's like, my favorite song's Unsteady, and they just released 3 more albums. Like, we have other music. Like I know it's our number one song, but like we have some
Yeah.
other songs.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
I've just kind of like I can't listen to Home anymore because I'm just so sick of hearing it, and like I hate my voice in that song now. Like the more I listen
Wow.
to it, the more I just think about like what more I could have done to it, and I didn't really have the actual instruments for it. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now your face is unfrozen on my screen.
Yeah, you were frozen
Your face
there
was
for a second,
frozen
too.
for like a solid like minute. I was just like, you're just like looking up. I'm like,
Hello?
what you gonna do next? Where's your head gonna move? It's like just standing still while you're still talking. Yeah, well, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for being on my podcast, and
Yeah, thank you for having
shout
me.
out to your upcoming EP with Ani May. Go stream that when that comes out. Do you have a date yet for it? Or
No. So we're pretty much just still working on the music, and it'll be coming soon. We actually just did the photo shoot for it, so we're pretty excited
Yeah.
about it. I'm sure you saw
Yeah.
some of those pictures. So
Yes, I did.
yeah.
And also, my first album, Year One, will be coming out Monday, July 20th, 2020, and that should be either the day that this podcast comes out or the day after. So, or I mean the day before. So go stream that. It'll be everywhere. And also, just another thing to say about that. When so I tried releasing this one time in like May, and then it came back as like, no, you can't release this. We have a problem with the one track. And I was like, okay. So like I waited for like a few weeks, didn't want to release it again, and then I eventually like decided in like June, end of June, I was like, I guess I'll release it, and I'll just like tweak this one wording in this one song. Let's make sure that it gets the correct version of the song, because it was having a problem with Citrus Fuzz, because I just wanted to call
Okay.
it just plain Citrus Fuzz, and you know how on that single I have like 2 different versions on it.
Yeah.
So it was like it's having like some problems. But make sure that you listen to it all the way from start to finish, because the day that I first submitted it, me and my dad literally were on a Zoom call for an hour just figuring out the transitions between the songs so it'd be really, really smooth. So yeah, and I mean, even if you've already heard the stuff, just go from start to finish. It really works well from each song to each song.
Yeah, I'm
And
excited
I know
for
I've
it.
released basically every song except for the last song, but it's also other thing. It's going to be part of a four-part series, which makes me sound a little bit like Jacob Collier, except I don't do jazz really. And it's going to be year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and it's going to be all original stuff that I make throughout my college year. Not stuff that I necessarily release in my college year, but the stuff that I made during my college year. So it could be like 10 tracks, it could be 20 tracks. I have no clue. I'm just going to release one album every summer. So by the end of summer 2023, I will have 4 albums out, hopefully. So look forward to those, I guess. And also,
super cool.
Yeah. Also, I hope that as I release these, my stuff gets better and better. Because I mean, I've gone through like my old stuff, like Dine Sweeter, who, how trashy and unquantized that is. It's really, really cool. I had some really, really cool ideas with the loops that I put in there. But then I listened to that, and then I listened to Temporal, and I'm like, yeah, Temporal is the winner. It is the ultimate winner. Yeah, so go stream that when that comes out. Yeah.
I guess if this podcast comes out, like, go stream it now or whenever it does. So go do that. Go support local musicians.
Yeah.
Musicians trying to make it.
Yeah. Go support Millersville musicians.
Actually, I have a bonus question. What for you? I'm gonna turn the tables.
Oh, it's now the Hunter Talks About Blank with Blank podcast. Welcome to this podcast.
Yeah, let's not ahead of ourselves. So I just have one question that I was thinking about, because I don't know if you want to start doing this with your podcast or like have people ask you a question or two. I know it's like you bring the guest on, but I think it'd be cool to like flip it around. So what is the reason behind the album title, Year One?
Year One. Well, just because. So I mean, I could have called it something else, but I just kind of like with this podcast name, I was the most uncreative decision in the world. It was just like, hey, this was all the stuff that I made in my first year of college, so I guess I'll just call it Year One, and maybe it'll be a part of a 4-part series. I have no idea. And then for like this podcast, I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna name it the way it explains exactly what it's about, because that's basically what the podcast is about. So I mean, it sounds kind of dumb with me naming it that way, but I mean, it also.
I love the intro to the podcast too. Like I love that.
Yeah, I literally asked that. I asked Josh to do that on like Thursday, and I mean, he didn't even look. I don't even think he looked at the sheet music that I sent him until like Saturday afternoon. And I told him it was like, do it like, I don't know, like 7 or like 8, and yeah, like 7. And he started at 5 and sent it to me at 6. Like he got it mixed and mastered in like an hour. And especially, I mean, I'm really thankful for him to do that, but also the fact that it's jazz, which I mean, I rarely write any jazz or make any jazz in a DAW. Like, it's not a thing I do, but I love jazz. So I sent it to him, and then I totally forgot because I didn't think it sounded good in my voice. I sent it to him. I'm like, I just totally blanked. I forgot that all he sings is pop and musical theater, which rarely, if ever, consists of jazz. So he was like stressing out for like the first like few, because he started to look at it at like 3 o'clock or like 4 o'clock, and he's like, call me immediately. And I hadn't looked at my phone, and I'm like, I called him at like 5:15, and I'm like, hey, do you have something to talk to me about? And he's like, oh no, I figured it out. I'll get it to you like in an hour. And I'm like, okay. He's right. Like, yeah, you wrote jazz. You know I'm not good at jazz. And I'm like, sorry.
He's so picky, that one. He's so picky. But you know what? We all love him.
Yes, we do.
If you're watching this, Josh, we love you, but like, you need to calm down. You need to relax, sir. Yes, and you can call me at these releases and you listen to me saying this.
Chill out, dude. Okay. Thank you guys for listening. This is Ben Derek with his friend Hunter McNally. Go stream his latest album On My Own. Out now. Thank you so much.